Hey everybody, welcome back to Dragonborn Industries. I'm Ian, the Dragonborn Bard, and we've got a special interview, and this isn't the What's on Cornwall series, and it's not one of our normal shows, because I'm actually joined by sponsor of many of our shows and friend, Richard, from Warrior Prince 3D. Richard, how are you?
I am well, Ian.
It's always weird starting that conversation because obviously, like, we chat before we do these things and stuff like that. So it's like having to then put the
10-minute
mask on.
chat beforehand.
Yeah, exactly. Which is like, oh, you know how you are. I've been up to this stage, but obviously, for people out there who are watching maybe now on YouTube, me and Richard do chat quite a lot. We're in several group chats, and we're constantly messaging about 3D prints and about shows and just generally making sure we're all okay. So it's nice to have you on and not be painting and not be focusing on other things. We are going to be focusing on you today.
It's a weird one, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, because we don't solely focus on you that often, and I think it's been a long time coming. And hopefully, people who watch Starfinder, who watch Bloodpunk, I mean, they might be watching this in the future, and those shows might be over. But I'm sure Richard will still be part of the channel in some way, shape, or form. Because what is Warrior Prince 3D, Richard?
Warrior Prince 3D, as my normal spiel goes on Paint on the Monster Manual, is your one-stop shop for all your 3D printing needs. We are a 3D print service, supplier of miniatures, collectibles, statues, cosplay pieces, pretty much anything you can fit on the printers. And again, like I said, printing service. So if you've bought yourself a Kickstarter and you have the STLs and you've got no way to print it, drop us an email or a message, and that is the sort of thing we can quote and work out for you. If you're wanting to get something printed bigger and you happen to only have a small printer and you want something in one piece or a much larger version, drop us a line, see what we can do. We try and encompass all works of resin 3D printing.
And that's the thing, really, is that Richard covers so many different aspects of 3D printing. And although it's only, you're not into the FDM printing side of things yet.
Not as yet, no, because I've mainly dedicated the setup to the resin 3D printing because it is the preferred method of I wanted to print. I didn't want to be doing the filament stuff. I wanted to go with the pure resin side of things for the detail and for the quality.
As you say, was that mainly for the detail and the quality? Because obviously, when I was 3D printing a lot more way back when, before my printers all decided to up and break, I was doing a lot of FDM printing, so I was doing a lot of like bigger terrain pieces and starships, and you do still get those no matter what you print at, layer lines that you have to sand and fill, or you have to, paint in a different way. Whereas resin printing is a whole different kettle of fish because of the detail you can get. And yeah, so did you know that you were going to go resin printing straight away from the start? Did you research both? Or were you like, no, I really like that? I mean, how did it begin for you?
So typically, I didn't research fuck all. I literally, it began for me with the D&D table, and building on my home D&D group at the time. We were wanting to do more battle maps, more minis, and actually wanting to do minis because we had never done the battle maps at that point. It had all been theatre of the mind, and an old friend of mine, Mark, who had been talking about bits and pieces and getting ideas of what we wanted to do and this and that. So we both went in halves on one of the old Anycubic monos, which was the old hatch lid, and the build plate was like this. You could literally get 4 minis on it, and that was it.
That's going back away.
Yeah, this bear in mind the screen wasn't even a 2K screen.
No.
So it was before the first higher resolutions came out, and so we started printing minis. And I remember getting the printer and getting it home, ordering it and whatnot, and then realizing it needed alcohol to clean it, and I didn't have a cleaner. So then I had to go and buy the cleaner, and then so it was a whole lot I should have researched before diving into, but did not.
Yeah, and
all I did was research the printer as to the quality of it at the time.
Yeah, fair enough. Because I remember I got into mine, and it was mine was the Anycubic Photon S, and it was mainly because Blackmagic Crafts. I was watching a lot of them at the time, same home games, and I was like, I really want to get into it because I want to stop printing minis for a game, and then I can like finish a game. I can have the random encounter ready for next week, and then and that was my reason to get into it as well. And I think that's probably where a lot of people have gone to, but then obviously, as your hobby progressed and you were doing more with the home games and more with the mini painting and stuff like that, obviously that need got bigger and bigger and bigger. So where did Warrior Prince 3D start?
So I got a bit addicted to printing. I loved printing, and I was just printing whatever I can. And it was a big thing for me, especially with mental health side of things. I was enjoying actually having something to focus on and something to do, printing, painting, and bits and pieces like that. And I wanted to do more with it. And I got a second printer and started to do bits and pieces. And Warrior Prince was born with actually a collaboration with my little sister.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So my little sister is a cosplayer. She does TikTok and bits and pieces like that, and she loves Loki. So I printed her a Loki, and she painted it on her TikTok, and it went nuts. People wanted it, and it was one of the most sort of traumatic workloads I've had in my entire printing career, because trying to print these Lokis in pieces on smaller printers was horrendous, but it funded the first line of the M3 pluses.
Oh, wow.
Which is when I got I got three M3 pluses, which were my most favorite machines of all, because they were just slogging hogs. They were just big chunky machines, workhorses. But yeah, so that was how Warrior Prince came about, and I started to do research bits and pieces into it, started to look into where to sell, what to do. We started setting up the Etsy store, started trying to work out what we could sell, what would work, getting the first round of merchant licenses. And the merchant licenses were horrendous. An interesting adventure in themselves, because Sanix was one of the first. And I couldn't get hold of Artisan Guild at the time. So every month, the first of the month, I was there refreshing the page on Patreon on Artisan Guild, hoping that someone else had let their membership lapse. And it took me quite a little while to get it. And then one day, one available, jumped straight on it, posts out and stuff like that. And so that was the main bread and butter of the D&D minis.
Because Artisan Guild are a phenomenal STL creator. Obviously, you've sent me loads of their stuff in the past, and we've used things at different painting up the Monster Manual shows. So for you, was that like the goal at the time? Was like, I need to have this particular.
Yeah, it was one of the. It's one of those. I wouldn't even say crowning moments. It's one of those achievement goals. As soon as that clicked in, it was like, right, I'm really sort of starting to get some traction. I can offer all this and do this and this and this. And it was one of the most sort of chuffed I've been at the start, getting bits and pieces off the gate and that. And Cast and Play were the other big one that I got and have had since the very beginning.
Yeah.
And between the two of those, it's literally been all the full circle of what I've wanted to provide for the D&D bits and pieces, the minis, terrains, the bits and pieces like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, they were the big sort of contenders for what I wanted to get started with.
So do you find that those two in particular are still like the big sellers? Are they still like people are like, oh my god, I need the Artisan Guild stuff, I need the Cast and Play stuff?
So Artisan Guild, it's one of those things. People are often sought the Artisan Guild stuff because of the figures and bits and pieces, and the Cast and Play terrain has been so popular with a lot of people.
Yeah.
even like it's because of the little bits and pieces you can get in them, and their new stuff they do with the terrain essentials have been quite popular. Their minis, there's some very select minis that have literally been the most popular in the store, but then there's been some sets where I've thought, why aren't these more popular? Because I think they're really fucking cool.
But that's the thing, isn't it? It's like what you get into to begin with compared to what people actually want can wildly change. And I know that I found that with dice making. I found that with the podcast, with doing shows with you. Sometimes we're like, the dinosaurs. We were like painting dinosaurs together. We were like, I fucking hate dinosaurs. One of the best shows we've ever done. It's just because, people want different things to what we want. And I think when you start a business, it will lead itself. And that's something that I don't know if it's ever been told to you, but it's been told to me in the past where, a business will grab you by the hand and go, no, we're going this way now. And you have to sort of follow suit. And I guess for anybody who hasn't seen Richard's stuff with us on the channel before, anybody who is maybe new to us or finding us, I'll put links in the description below to go to Richard's Etsy store, to his Instagram, to his TikTok and all the other socials, because some of the stuff that he puts out is beyond unbelievable. Like the quality of the prints that you're getting is wild. And, firsthand can tell you that after having him sponsor our shows, it's absolutely incredible to open up a box from Warrior Prints and just be like, every bit of detail on there is going to be there. If somebody else was going to be like you and want to follow suit and get into 3D printing, where would you advise them to start?
Making sure they have enough room in their flat.
Yeah, fair enough.
The biggest piece of advice I'll ever give to anyone is make sure you've got your space. Because the problem is getting into the printing, and even if you're wanting to start on the business side of things, you need your space to be able to do everything you need to do. Because getting into the business side of things, you're going to be creating at such a level that you can't just do everything on one work surface. You need workstations.
Yeah.
So I've had to organize it. I've got printing, cleaning, second cleaning, packaging. So it's everything has to be, can't all be jumbled up, everything. So everything comes off the printing section, then goes into the cleaning section where you've got the alcohol and the second alcohol clean, because no matter what anyone says, always have two alcohol cleaning tubs or cleaning stations, because it's how it should roll. It's the best way to make sure you get no resin left over, and it's the best way to do wet sanding as well on models to reduce the support marks and other issues and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I was actually going to ask you what the process is, if you didn't mind sharing it, because I think that's so important to get the quality that you get. And I've seen it firsthand, so I know what happens. You don't have to reveal any secrets or anything like that if you're like, no, this is like my little thing. But like,
it's not so much secrets; it's process.
Yeah,
it's one of those things. So I'm incredibly picky about making sure there's no lines and bits and pieces like that. So it's getting the printers down and dialed in so that you know what's coming off, and you can see as soon as you take the build plate off, you would know you've got a fail or you've got a line. So that whole plate's gone. The whole plate's gone, no matter what, because that's not good enough then to give a customer.
And that is the thing, is your quality control is unreal. It's amazing.
It's one of those things I hate, because it stems back from my old retail days of Wibby. Would I buy it?
Yeah.
Or would I want it on my table? I've started to be a bit better with my own stuff, and obviously, if there's a line in it, I can sand it. I know how to clean it up, or I can do bits and pieces to hide it.
I've lost you.
Have you lost me? Lost me audio?
You're back. You're back. I don't know what happened there, but
back. Yeah. So I'll say again, I've been better with using so if there's stuff with like lines in it, I will, if it's for myself, I'll clean it up. I've been doing it today. I don't know if I can get a good image of it with the ghoul is behind me. I've been working on today.
Oh, look at that.
So that was getting sort of cleaned up in bits and pieces. Found a line in the trousers. So it was just like, right, okay, sanded it down, make it all right. But because it's for me, it's fine.
Yeah. But if that was going out to someone at that point, you found a line,
I would reprint. Even though I can clean it up and make it look like new,
it's still not the same.
It's still not the same. I think it should come off the plate fine. If it's a support mark or standing a support mark, that's a very different process.
Yeah.
If there's a line in it, the problem is it means there could be a line somewhere else that I might not have noticed, or it's one of those things that I don't like to accept going out to a customer.
And I think that's incredible because a lot of people, I think, get into it and I think can be overwhelmed by the volume maybe that they would get of printing and be like, I need to just fire them out, get them gone, and maybe you can miss things. And I've certainly ordered things from other people in the past and been like, I think I've actually said to you, I've been like, oh, I've got this, but actually... because your quality's kind of ruined it a little bit for me when I've had it from other people, and I'm like, yeah, okay. So that's when like we started working together a bit more, and I was like, okay, you're the guy that I want to have around for the shows.
And I appreciate that, and it's that I feel so awkward. I don't take compliments well, but I crave them like little cherries because then it's like it's that pat on the head, right? Yeah, I'm doing it, Peter. I'm doing it, Peter.
I get that. I do. And I will sit here and sing your praises all day. One, because you've sorted us out on so many occasions. And, we've become friends over the past couple of years that I'm very happy to say that you are, one, a lovely person. And two, you do incredible work. And it's just, I'm the same. But it's like, I struggle to take the compliments. And so I get that. It's hard, especially when the world we live in, this like TTRPG / and it is like an art form almost. So when you send things out and people are like, that's a beautiful print, you're like, oh shucks, yeah, don't give me the compliment. But it does feed that wants to carry on doing it as well, and to make it feel like it's all worthwhile. And I really like that you said that basically organization is the key to success in 3D printing. Is have those stations separated out and go, this is the first one, do the job. Second one, do the job. Third one, and so on and so forth. And I think that is fundamental. I really do. It's the same with dice making. It's the same with mini painting. And if people are going to start a business, like heed Richard's word. It's very, very true. To be organized is going to be your saving grace.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that also helps you pick up on issues as well. If there happen to be something wrong or happen to be something missing, you can check things off.
Yeah.
But yeah, having the two cleaning bits and pieces as well, it does mean obviously making sure you've got that. I know I am guilty of, but always making sure you've got the mask. That's a big thing. I always have my gloves on. I always have bits and pieces around for cleaning, but yeah, I need to wear the mask a lot more.
It's almost like resin's worse for your lungs than it is your skin, Richard.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. But
it's the biggest thing I found to help with the quality as well is getting those double cleans, because then you can completely clean all of the resin residue off.
Yeah.
Any left on there can cause detail issues when you cure.
Yes.
When you post cure.
Yep.
Thank you. And also, again, it's the wet sanding I have found has been one of the biggest things that I feel helps separating, not separate, but improve the detail, improve the quality.
Yeah.
Because even a silly thing like on bases, always the bottom of my bases, 9 times out of 10 are smooth.
Yeah.
It's a case of they go in the alcohol vat, that they're done on a wet sand, and that's it. You don't see the pop marks or anything like that. And I know it's a base, it's going to be on the bottom, no one's going to notice that, but it's one of those weird things that bother me.
I agree, and like out of all the things that I've 3D printed, and the 3D prints I've had from many other different people that I've ordered from Etsy, from eBay, from companies that have sent things out to me. Some people are like, well, it's underneath the base. I peel it off the supports and I leave it be, and then you send them through to me, and I'm like, but that looks like a professional base underneath because it is smooth. And the wet sand, and it's the same thing we do when we're working with resin, when it's been through the pressure pot, and when we're doing dice, wet sanding really gives you that like smooth finish without those big scratch marks as well. It is such a vital thing in any kind of resin post-processing, I think. And the fact that you're using that on 3D prints really makes a difference to the quality of the detail.
Yeah, and that's it. And the bane of it is because nothing goes out primed, it's getting that first impression of a model and seeing it.
Yeah.
If it's full of scratches and white marks and stuff like that, regardless of whether as soon as you spray it, people, not everyone is going to know that they might go or they might not be too bad. But yeah, it's trying to make sure that first sort of impression of it is good quality.
But yeah, and I think that also stems to a lot of other things. And if you can find, like, this is not like I go looking for mistakes or anything like that on anything, but like if you see one pock mark somewhere or one support mark, you are naturally gonna go looking for the next ones, or you're gonna start seeing them. You're like, oh, there's one here and there's one here, and on your prints, it's really hard to find them if you go looking for them, which is really quite fun. Actually, sometimes I get the prints and I'm like, oh, where is one? I can't find one, and it's
one of those things. On the bigger prints, you tend to find less because it's easier to sand, easy to wet sand, bits like that. The wonderful thing with the minis, especially the artisan minis, is they're put in places that you can't usually see. They try and do them as best as possible, and you sand them the more obvious ones away, especially when they're put on swords and stuff like that and weapons and that. But it's cast and play have been one of the best for supports.
Really,
which is always a wonderful. I don't know who does their supports. I would really like to know, because they are one of the best, and for the least amount of sort of marks on the model.
Well, cast and play, if you're watching this, you've got a thumbs up from Richard, and let us know who your supporting artist is, because actually supports is something. Supports is something that I think that actually we've had a chat about before. We're in a few group chats with other people that have also into 3D printing that have asked about supports, and you seem to be the guy to go to in all of these group chats about it, because although you say about like cast and play and about Artisan Guild and their support's fine, a lot of the time you find that you don't use pre-supported models and you'll go out of your way to do it.
With the statues especially.
Why is
there's
that?
A few of those. So it's one of those things. So with certain sculptors, certain providers who have obviously I'm presuming put more time and money and focus into the artists and into the sculpts, their pre-supports are not always the best. Or they're too over the top. They're too what's called the penetration on the model, where the point of the support touches the model. Instead of just touching the surface, they've got it 4 feet in.
Yeah.
Just to make sure it stays on the plate, because obviously some people, the machines are very different.
Yes.
The only one of the few groups that I love are Bulkomancer. Their support system on all their statues and their cuts are phenomenal.
Oh, good.
Yes, I love them to pieces, the way they have their models. Hell Creator is another great one. Although because they sculpt at a 1/12 scale, I don't like 1/12 because it's too small for me, so I tend to go bigger. Yeah. So I tend to either adjust the supports they've made and add to them on the Lychee support sides, or I scale up and I do my own. And the big thing around doing my own is also the orientation of the model sometimes isn't great and sometimes bothers me.
Yep.
So, for instance, the biggest thing some people do when they've got a 4-piece base, they will place the supports where the base would meet and the keys are, the joints. Yeah. But the problem is doing that will cause the base itself and where the supports meet the base to warp, to distort. It's what causes the most sort of grief on a base piece.
Yeah.
Because it means when they go together, they don't. 9 times out of 10 on a base model, you're always going to need to fill a base piece like that. So you may as well do the best thing you can to try and help them go together, which is support it in a different way.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you. I've had so many things that have had keys and to piece things together, and the supports are on the keys, and you have to sand them down or cut them off, or you have to basically just find a different way to put it together, and it's almost like extra work. And I actually fully agree with you on that one. You mentioned about big prints and 1/12 being too small for you, and I know for a fact that 1/12 is not a problem for you. And I think a lot of people watching would think that 3D printing mostly like medium-sized creatures for D&D, 28 to 32 mil scale, maybe some 40k stuff, maybe some tabletop wargame stuff, but you do full-on statues and huge pieces. And I know this because we've had big pieces from you. I've got a BD1 that's life size over there.
You've had some of my biggest pieces.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like, so I know, and I pushed Richard on those ones, not to be like, to push him to see what he could do, but because things like Starfinder that we've done and stuff, we've really wanted to push the boundaries. Oh my God, look at Prime there. So, I mean, and this is what I mean. Like, Richard, I bet that wasn't the original scale of that statue. Bring it back. Show everybody. Bring it back.
Actually, this one is a ZEZ statue. And credit where credit's due, this is one of the scales of the statue.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's wild. And is this available through your Etsy store?
It is going to be, but it's one of those ones that is a case of it's not been put up yet. Because the other problem is as well is getting all these statues up on Etsy and making sure Etsy don't take it down with the right names.
Yeah, yeah. So actually, that's something that is worth mentioning as well, because it's something you've experienced, and I think other people might want to know if they're ever looking on Etsy or if they're looking to join Etsy, is that it's about getting, because Etsy's a search engine as well as a shop. And have you found it easy to work on Etsy, or have you found that you've had to like relearn things, or like obviously the social media side of things is one, but then Etsy itself is a search engine shop. How did you find working with that?
Social media side, yes, is a big thing, but the Etsy shop, it is a big thing. I've had to have another massive learning curve this year.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest issues I found is my sales started to drop. And was trying to sort of wonder why, and then I went through the listings and checked out other listings that have been done up, and a newer thing of increased descriptors within the name and different ways of not different ways of calling a model, but basically having, say for instance, you've got a human warrior in plate mail armor with a sword. That human warrior could be a cleric, could be a paladin, could be a warrior, could be a barbarian, could be, Ygritte from down the road in the pub.
Yeah.
It's about getting all of the different sort of descriptors in there of what it is to help it appear as much as possible, to give as much detail as possible. One of the mistakes that I made is using the name of what it was sculpted as.
Really?
So I was using like the Artisan Guild names. I should have been basically using human male paladin. I wasn't. I was calling it a vanguard fighter or something like that, or this and that. There was so much more information I could have put in, so much more that. And we then went back and also changed the descriptor of what we do and what we are, within the shop itself.
Yeah.
To add more detail into that to help people then with the scales. And we then also started adding 28mm and 50mm scale to each of the listings.
All right.
Before it was just standard 32.
Yeah.
And the other thing then we did was also add base and no base options.
Yep.
Because sometimes not everyone wants a base. It does significantly change the price on some of the bigger models. So a listing of 6 models then became 99 listings in one because you had all these different variations.
So, and I think that's something that I know nothing about with Etsy, because obviously I'm not present on Etsy at all, and it's a whole new world to me, and I'm sure it is to a lot of other people as well, because then you're like setting up your shop, then you're also setting up the listings, and I think I would have done the same thing. I would have gone, oh, well, this is what they call it, and that's what people are going to search for, but actually people are just going to type in what... Yeah, because I think for us being people who are into 3D printing, we've already gone and searched it, found it through using things like Human Paladin, then found the Artisan Guild, go, oh, I want that exact model, and then type that in, and actually more people are going to type, like you say, Human Wizard, Human Cleric. And I think you've actually touched on something there that I think you do amazingly well that I want to bring up, is that if people don't have an idea of a mini or a model or just have the idea of a character, you can source something.
Yeah, it's one of those scary things of having a horrific good memory of seeing characters and things and thinking, right, I know them, I can do that. Or having a big enough library as well that if I don't remember I've got something that fits, I can think, right, I'll go and have a look. And I've got the bits and pieces and so much in there that I can literally find it. Or if by some chance I don't have it in the library, I will literally go to see. I'm determined then to find something that will fit because it just bothered me that I don't have it.
Exactly. And so for people, again, who maybe haven't seen the channel before, maybe don't know about painting up the monster manual, I literally say to Richard, these are the next X amount of them. I don't go and find them myself. I just hand him the name. He goes off and finds them and then sends me a box full of stuff. And it's always incredible. And I like, especially things like the animated broom the other week, which was my absolute all-time favorite mini. And you went out of your way and found something absolutely incredible for it and then sent it across. And I was just like, how? Every time. It's not just like the shittest ones either. You always find something amazing. And it's just the amount of time you must put into people's orders looking for the right thing for them.
Yeah, and it is. I say it's one of those things that I pride myself on with the service because it's one of those things that having such a thing that not so much a creation. It's I'm going to go with it's a pride thing. I'm proud of the service that we offer, and I want no matter what, I want people to go away happy they've come to me, but also then chuffed with what we've been able to find and provide for them.
Yeah, and it's I think with especially like D&D characters and TTRPG characters, people have such a connection to them, and I can paint a mini all day long, but I can't do character art, and I think a lot of people are in that same boat. They're more willing to give painting a mini go because you don't have to draw it's like the outline's already done. And, somebody comes to you with a description and goes, oh, this is my character. Their spark of creation's already happened, and they're still really excited. And you come back with a mini that's so close to what they've described that it's just... Yeah, I think it's absolutely incredible what you do for people. It's above and beyond. It's not just, we've got this, check the store. You literally go out of your way to offer them a service and find them the right thing. And it's absolutely incredible.
Do you know what my curse is, though?
You spent too long looking...
No, I have still to this day not been able to find a model that will suit one of my characters.
Well, you need to get into 3D printing and 3D designing then.
Literally, it's got to a point I've had to hero forge one or two just because I couldn't find something. Yeah, because I couldn't find something close enough.
So that's interesting because...
However, the hero forge one I did of my Gnome Artificer, I was so fucking chuffed with because I even got a little robot thing on it for my my cannon. Because
you do offer the hero forge printing as well, don't you? So it's like if people have got...
Yes, so you drop us a file, and we can print it, scale them up, and play around with them. So yeah, that's something very big part of what we offer as well.
Yeah, because that's literally what we did with our character minis for Starfinder and for Bloodpunk, and I'm sure we will for Starfinder 2e and for whatever campaign comes next after Bloodpunk, because I say I've been to Richard with many models and it's been like, can you do this for me? Can you do this for me? In fact, one of them is literally right here. This is like, yeah, and right down to the big things, but the players, because they're so specific in what they want for their character, they go and create something on like Hero Forge or Titancraft. And I know that we've spoken privately before about like the poly difference. And obviously, this is like the skin of the model and how it looks. And both Richard and I will dive into an STL and be like, wow, this is smooth. This is amazing. Whereas because Hero Forge is and this isn't a slight on Hero Forge because it is a great service, but because it's so adaptable and variable and they have to be able to move bits around, the poly count has to be lower. But even when you print those, you get it to a scale where it's you can't even tell. It's incredible. And yeah, that personalization of the minis and the fact that going to Hero Forge, getting the STL is cheaper than having them print it and waiting the times. You can have the STL there and then, send it to Richard. And I mean, what is your sort of turnaround on printing a Hero Forge mini?
On a Hero Forge mini, 9 times out of 10, it's so long as I've got the space through on a plate, I can do it that day because I've got them down to getting them supported and done usually within about half an hour, depending on how many wings or swords or daggers they've got. And it's one of those things I try and get those. If it's just like one figure, straight away done that day, that night, so it's done. Next day it's drying and it's ready to go.
So that's quick.
Usually pretty damn quick.
Yeah, and if you had like an estimate of a price for a Hero Forge mini, so like, we'll just say like, for anybody watching, just a human fighter, no wings, just...
Hero Forge minis, I do a standard price.
Oh, okay.
Basically, it is because it all depends on postage wanted.
Yeah.
So a Hero Forge Mini will start from £15.
Nice.
And that is to accommodate for the time to support it, the model cost itself, and postage, because unfortunately minis can't go in envelopes; they have to go in parcel boxes.
Yes.
And again, I use the Royal Mail tracked 24-hour or 48-hour. The 48-hour is £3 odd, so nearly £4 now, and then the track 24 is £4 odd. So if it's one mini, it's either £15 or it's £17.
Yeah, there you go. I think that that's a phenomenal price for what people are getting with both the speed and the quality of the print. And it's interesting because you've obviously... places like Hero Forge have really facilitated the ability for people to create characters, and other people have got into 3D printing because of it. And then, we've all been on that Hero Forge journey. We've all been then on to like the mining into like My Mini Factory and into Thingiverse and stuff like that. But obviously that's all online, and Warrior Prince 3D is no longer just online, is it? Because you now do events.
So yeah, we started out trying to sort of get to some of the smaller events, and we're now trying to work our way into some of the bigger ones. We just did Paradise Board Game Convention, which is my local one here. They started literally in the town here. Done the third year this year, upgrading to a bigger venue. But the intention is to work our way into some of the much bigger cons like NEC, getting myself to one of the UK's CGF ones, and yeah, even getting to the point of getting to the Salute and stuff and Dragon Meet in London as well. It's just it's mad.
Yeah, but it's starting to happen, and it's like obviously we can see with anybody who hasn't checked out Paradise is it's in Worthing, yeah.
So Paradise, yeah, it's in Worthing. It's a yearly board game convention at the moment, and this year it really was a lot more convention type. You had a lot of games being tested there. There was a big space. It was done in a big leisure centre. So you had vendors there. You had game testing going on, gameplay areas, the cafe and stuff like that. Lots of on-site parking. And yeah, it was a much bigger sort of thing from what they had. The two previous years were in the town hall, so you had the vendors and you had the gameplay. Has that sound gone out again?
Very briefly, so they had, and then it went silent for a few seconds. So go again.
Oh yeah. So they had the vendors and just the gameplay area. They the two previous years they didn't have as many game testers or as much of a space for it. They did obviously have some. But this year, as I said, it was a much, much bigger sort of scale for it, and it was great.
So do you think that, are you going to try and get to Salute this year, or are you going to aim for next year?
So Salute will definitely be a next year thing.
Yeah.
With the costs of the London ones, being a one-man band and trying to sort of juggle everything else, it's always that thing of time away from home, costs of travel, costs of staying, and it's such a fine line to juggle along, as it were. So it's one of those. I'd love to say, right, yeah, I'm going to Salute, let's go. Yeah. But it's not an easy thing.
No, it's not. And I think that for anybody watching that doesn't know, like when you book to do a convention, you usually have to pay for your table space. You usually have to pay for things like, I'm not sure if some events have insurance, other events you have to get public liability insurance for the weekend. And the costs do add up. And some places, like I know that we looked at Dragon Meet a few years ago, and there were like 3x3 tables, and then there were 3x3 tables with electricity. And you're like,
yes.
What? And so, yeah, and you end up paying like an X amount more just to have access to a plug socket. And it really does add up. And you've got to consider the options when, am I going to sell enough? Do I need to work out what I think is going to sell at this con as well? And that is hard to judge. And I think for Dragonborn Industries, we were like, well, I don't need to do that. It's one of those things where like I stepped back from it. I was like, we're going to go as punters. We're going to interact with people that way. But I'm in a different area of this hobby than you are, and seeing you going out and doing the event, especially in the local area, I really do hope you get out to Salute and to UK Games Expo and to Dragon Meet, because I think that if people get to see the quality of your stuff, or if like there are other events going on that people can invite you to, honestly, it's incredible.
I would love to, and I've made the time and the effort to go and scout out some of the places to scope out the floor, check out the competition and other bits and pieces, and see how I would do things. And it is, I would love to see how I can compete with them and how I can see how people feel about it, because it's also one of those places that when you go to the bigger cons, people go there to nerd out.
Yeah.
They're there for that single purpose of seeing everything, being there, the experience of it. Whereas with some of the smaller cons, it's a very, very different sort of kettle of fish, especially with the clientele, especially if it's a sort of a family term one as well. So you have people on just like a family time out, going out for having a wander around and stuff like that. So yeah, I want to vendor at one of the bigger ones, just to have the experience and to see it from that side of things, to see how it goes. So that's the big goals for next year, is to hit at least Salute or Dragon Meet.
That would be awesome. What about UK Games Expo?
That is a very, very big goal at the moment, because a plot is $2,000.
What? Whoa! What size table?
That's my three 6-foot table setup. Spread £1,800 with no advertising or anything like that.
I'm going to leave that silence there just to let that soak in, because that's a lot, I think, for any.
That is just the table. That's literally just the very, the bones of it, the plot, the tables. That doesn't include, then I've got to be there for 3 days. I've got to have enough stock
for 3 days.
Be there for 3 days. I've got to have a transport big enough to transport 3 days worth of stock.
Yeah.
Because, it's so, that's what I mean. It's a very different sort of experience. And for the one-man bands, it's as I said, a juggle. I don't have that sort of capital to lay out.
No.
And then be able to pay rent, fix a printer if it breaks, buy resin,
And that's it. Really is about that kind of like that leveling up of the business, really, to get to that point. But that is one hell of a goal. However, if people are going to the UK Games Expo this year, you can certainly find Richard and I. We're not going to be there with a stall, but I'm going. Half of Dragonborn Industries, well, actually, the majority of Dragonborn Industries are going as a cast to walk the floor and chat to people. But you're also going, aren't you?
I am hoping to. At this moment, at the moment, there's a slight chance I might not be.
Oh no!
At the moment, if I am, I will be flying solo. So unfortunately, the wife won't be going with me this year.
Oh no!
Weren't able to get kiddie cover for the whole weekend.
Yeah, I fully understand that. But fully understand that. It's the joys of being a parent sometimes is that if you can't get the babysitters, then that's that. Well, I hope you are coming, because I've just promised people on the internet that you're coming to it and they can say hello.
The intention is I want to be there, and I want to meet up with yourself.
Yeah.
I want to be able to meet up with some of the other great friends we've made in the community. And there's a lot more people going this year that are in the network of friends, as it were. So,
because you say about that, we've been very fortunate this year to collaborate with some very different and bigger names than who we are. And obviously, collaborations when it comes to social media and to working in the tabletop industry, even at our level, which is still minute in the grand scheme of things. We're still, itty bitty babies. But doing a stream with like Meredith and Greg from Turbo Dork over on the Dragon School Studios channel, and then we're going to go hopefully hang out with them at UK Games Expo. Being friends with other creators like Midnight Tower has been a real boon for me as a content creator. But like, you've also had collabs with people like Cantina 13.
Yeah, and I've been talking to Dylan today about bits and pieces and stuff like that, because he's got a new thing going on.
But tell us about the collabs you've done, especially the Cantina 13 one.
So Cantina 13, unfortunately, due to the postage issues, got put a bit on hold. So they've literally, I was doing some printing for them, obviously, just before Christmas. Literally, they sent me a load of the Resi 1 resin, basically, to show off the resin. Flesh of Gods prints, which is one of my merchant licenses, which is great. Did this mass big box of stuff and sent them over. and then the Canadian, because obviously they're in Canada, Canadian postal strikes happened.
Yeah.
So we picked up the box 2 weeks ago, and I sent it in December.
Wow.
Yeah, which is pretty funny.
I thought you'd already featured in some of their videos.
I have. So the benefit is as well is because how we met was they messaged me to say love the quality of your minis and bits and pieces like that. So one of the great collabs we did do is on one of their song videos. You can see Warrior Prince models. One of them are big dragons, several of the little minis, and all on display on there.
That's amazing.
Which was I was so fucking chuffed for that. That was one of those. The fact that they reached out to me as well was one of a really nice sort of. I was well chuffed for that moment.
And what I will do is I will ask Richard for the link to the social medias for those videos, and I'll put those in the description below so that you can see, one, the awesomeness that is Cantina 13, two, Richard's minis in those videos, which is really awesome. But like, so if you could do more collabs and people were going to like reach out, how is best to find you?
Best way to find me is on Instagram. My phone is always attached to my hip, and it's one of those things. No matter when it goes off, that the natural habit is to check things and do bits and pieces. So yeah, I love working with people. I've had the privilege and the opportunity to meet some of my closest friends.
Yeah.
Whilst doing this, to be honest, and it's been that thing of I love working with people, and I love finding the right people to work with as well.
Yeah,
which has been a fantastic journey that even yourself and I have been on. Even,
yeah,
with the shows and the programs and stuff.
Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head there, because this is the reason that we're doing this interview, and the reason that we've worked on so many things together is because we found the right people to work with. And you are definitely one of those for me, and hopefully, like you've just said, I'm the same one for you. But then also like, yeah,
Cantina 13, Dibs, Scorched Gaming. We've had I've had Ground Affected that I've done a lot of sort of bits and pieces with. He's my tattoo artist, and my go-to for sort of checking on. I ask him about printers and bits and pieces because he does even more printing than I do and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We've got Herbalists, Jim Worth. We've got the Craig, Dragonborn, the D&D painter. It's everyone that has just come together that we've worked with, that has gelled with, and
yeah,
it's such a community, and it's one of those things that have really brought more passion to actually what I'm doing.
Yeah,
myself.
Yeah.
On this side, and wanting to fight for the corner, then fight, to keep and hold and build the community.
And that, I think, is such a vital thing that you say, because I think the TTRPG community, for me, has been a big one for my mental health, and also just being the best community out on the internet. Everyone supports each other, and everyone's lovely. And I know that with yourself, and with the people that you've mentioned, and many, many others that when we get to UK Games Expo, we can meet up with, and all the people over in the stateside, if we can get to Gen Con and things like that. It has been an incredible journey to take part in that, especially on some of those steps with you as well, and to be like, oh shit, we're doing this with TurboDoc together, or we're doing this with Craig together, or we're doing this. It's wild.
Yeah, and it, we've now got Iwata and the Ross and the airbrushing bits and pieces like that.
I was literally about to say, because now you're doing painting videos, because not only is Rich into 3D printing, not only is he a 3D printing service, dude knows how to paint and is a freaking legend with an airbrush. And if you ever see our show, Painting Up the Monster Manual, when he's got an airbrush out, in an hour can do more than I could fathom with my mind. And now the airbrush company, the UK distributor of airbrushes, has asked you to come in.
Iwata Airbrushes.
Iwata Airbrushes has asked you to step into the fold to help them with YouTube videos.
That I've been so chuffed with doing that, and it's been such a wonderful sort of thing, working with them, working with Ross, and you said about like the mental health bits and pieces, the printing side, the benefits to the mental health date and processing, and just general helping to clear the fog.
Yeah,
and stuff like that. It's been a wonderful thing.
Yeah, it really, really has. And to be again to like basically flog the horse here is that being on this journey with you for so many different things has been incredible. Then I get to see you go on to do things like with Cantina 13, or to go on and play in games, or to go on and basically see you doing full like tutorials now with the airbrush company, which was absolutely incredible to be like called in and see you do that. I think it's amazing, and I think that it's just a testament to the level of care that you put into everything that you do and the passion that you have for this particular hobby, its interest and its community. It's absolutely incredible. And although we're going to have to close down this interview, I really would suggest to anybody out there who is watching to please go check out the description below. Go check out the links to all of the social medias, which are, Richard, where can people find you?
So people can find me at Instagram, WarriorPrince3D, Facebook, Etsy, over with Dragonborn Industries, street corners, shouting about it. Literally, hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll even have our own website up and running within the next 6 months. So that's one of the next big goals.
Yeah, and we'll put links to all of those in the description below. We will make sure that, we hopefully share these all on social medias. But if you've got any questions for Richard, please feel free to drop them in the comments below. If not, just go across, give him a follow, and just... if you're looking for 3D prints, I can tell you now that the level of quality and passion that Richard puts into them are above and beyond. Otherwise, it is unfortunately time to say goodbye, as we are in and around that hour mark. So unless there's anything else you would like to finish with, Richard?
No, other than just a case of a thank you to everyone, a thank you to all the customers, thank you to everyone who's made it possible, a thank you to everyone within the community, and most of all, a thank you to yourself, my friend, because... You've been a solid part of Warrior Prince 3D and my journey on this, as it were. So, thank you to you. Well,
my absolute pleasure. You are a stand-up guy and just a lovely person, and that's the only thing that matters to me. We have to end this interview, I'm afraid. So for all of you watching, thank you so much. If you like the interview, please hit subscribe. Please like the video. And hopefully we'll have more interviews coming out for you soon. But until then, may the dice gods be ever in your favor. See you later, guys.